The story of the Thousand Islands begins tens of thousands of years ago at the hand of Mother Nature. Receding glaciers of the last ice age carved the Great Lakes out of the vast North American river basin. Melting glaciers filled these 5 new cisterns with fresh water, searching for a path to the sea. The Laurentian River had served the ancient watershed, but now covered with ice. It had to be rerouted from the spout of Lake Ontario to meet its old path, near what is now the Quebec-New York border. This new river, the St. Lawrence, cascaded to the Atlantic Ocean, submerging hundreds of granite knolls and their larger limestone and sandstone partners. In all, more than 1,800 islands were formed. The exact number has fluctuated over the centuries due to river levels. The vegetation on each ranges from mosses to maples. To be considered an island, these rocky outcroppings must be above water year-round and support at least one tree. The first French explorers of the 16th century christened this 60-mile stretch the Thousand Islands. The Iroquois called the archipelago Manitowana, or Garden of the Great Spirit. The first white French and English settlers to arrive in the Thousand Islands reportedly found a few scattered Iroquois on the shores of Chippewa Bay and in a small village known as Antaniata. Antaniata is believed to have been located either on Tar or Grenadier Island or Cook's Point, east of present-day Rockport, Ontario. The Iroquois were farmers as well as hunters, and Antaniata was likely surrounded by cornfields and apple orchards. The earliest explorers, Jacques Cartier, René Robert LaSalle, and Count Louis Frontenac undoubtedly made Antaniata one of their first stops as they traveled upriver from the Gulf of St. Lawrence and through the Brockville Narrows. Just west of Brockville, the St. Lawrence widens to more than double its downriver width as the Thousand Islands begin. Straight ahead is Grenadier Island, and to the south lies Chippewa Bay, home to 20 or 30 islands. The Thousand Islands was not always the vacation spot we see today. The Revolutionary War affected the area in the 18th century, and twice in the 19th century, war came to the islands. The War of 1812 crisscrossed the region, ranging from Oswego to Ogdensburg, New York, and from Kingston to Prescott, Ontario. 2 battles were fought in the tiny village of Sackett's Harbor, New York. The second, more decisive battle took place on May 29, 1813. During the War of 1812, Sackett's Harbor was the principal shipyard and base for the American Naval Squadron on Lake Ontario. Nearby, Fort Volunteer housed thousands of soldiers, sailors, shipbuilders, and mechanics. In an attempt to destroy the shipyard, a British-Canadian force attacked the harbor. At the time, the majority of the American forces were across Lake Ontario attacking Fort George near Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. The remaining Americans drove off the enemy and won the battle.
Sackett's Harbor, because of its strategic location, was very important during the War of 1812. Located on the eastern end of Lake Ontario and opposite Upper Canada. We were also very close, and still are, to the mouth of the St. Lawrence River, which of course was the communications route and the commerce route. So both the British, Canadians, and the Americans were trying to control the lake and the route onto the river. So Sackett's Harbor became the center for all the military here in the Northeast, particularly on the lake. The Army, the Navy, the Marines, and a lot of militia were drawn here as well to help support the troops, to launch raids into Canada, and also to do all of the shipbuilding.
Then, on a frigid, windy, snowy February 22nd, 1813, British troops stationed at Prescott in Canada undertook a dangerous and hazardous journey across the frozen St. Lawrence River and attacked the village of Ogdensburg with overwhelming force. The attack was successful, and the British captured the village. Though small in scale, the victory removed the American threat to British supply lines from Canada for the remainder of the war.